Picture this. You're at a casual get-together. Nothing fancy. Music low, drinks in hand, people talking over each other. Across the room, you catch her looking at you. Not a quick glance, a real one. Your eyes meet. She looks away instantly and starts talking fast to her friend. And right there, your stomach drops. Okay, you tell yourself, she's not interested. So you pull back, you keep your distance, you stop engaging the way you were about to. But what if I told you? That moment wasn't rejection at all. What if that was one of the clearest signs she was interested, and you just missed it? I've seen this happen more times than I can count. Smart, well-intentioned men misreading the exact moment attraction is forming, and then accidentally shutting it down. And I get why. Mixed signals are exhausting. They make you second-guess yourself. They make you wonder if you imagined the connection in the first place. So you protect yourself, you hesitate, you wait for certainty. Here's the truth most men never hear. Women don't pull back because attraction disappears. They pull back when attraction starts to feel vulnerable. Today, we're flipping the script. We're not going to focus on what women say, because words are easy to manage. We're going to decode what women do, especially when they're trying not to reveal interest. I'm going to show you the subtle behaviors women display when they like you but are holding themselves back, not because they're playing games, but because attraction creates emotional risk. By the end of this video, you'll stop chasing clarity. You'll stop overanalyzing tone shifts. And most importantly, you'll know how to respond in a way that makes her feel safe enough to come forward on her own. We're going to break down the moment she pulls back right after showing interest, the quiet test she runs to see if you're emotionally grounded, the common mistake men make that turns curiosity into distance, and the one behavior that's basically her saying, "I like you," without ever saying it. This isn't about tricks, it's about awareness. And once you see these patterns, you'll realize something powerful. You have more influence here than you think, without forcing anything. Now let's start with the first sign almost every man misreads. 1. The pullback signal. Let me paint a familiar scenario. You've had a good interaction with her. She laughs, she's engaged, she asks you questions. Maybe there's even a little spark. Then suddenly, she pulls back. Her replies get shorter. She stops initiating. She seems quieter than before. And your brain immediately goes, "I messed up." Here's the reframe I want you to hear clearly. When a woman pulls back after a positive interaction, it's often not loss of interest. It's emotional regulation. Attraction creates exposure. Exposure creates vulnerability. So what does she do? She creates space, not to leave, but to regain control. This is especially common when she didn't expect to feel something. Now here's where most men go wrong. They react to the pullback instead of holding their center. They overtext. They explain themselves. They try to fix a problem that doesn't exist, and that shifts the dynamic. The behavioral insight here is simple but powerful. Pullback is not a cue to chase. It's a cue to stay steady. Your job in this moment isn't to convince her. It's to show emotional consistency. So what does that look like in real life? It means you don't increase effort to get reassurance. You don't withdraw out of fear. You keep the same calm, grounded energy you had before. This communicates something without words. I'm not rattled. I'm safe. I'm not desperate for validation. And safety is what allows attraction to come forward. Here's the mindset shift I want you to adopt. Instead of asking, "How do I get her back?" ask, "Am I creating space for her to step forward?" Because when you don't react emotionally to her pause, you give her permission to return on her terms. And when she does, that's when interest becomes intentional. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that the moment you stopped trying to figure her out, she suddenly leaned back in? That brings us to the next sign, the one most men mistake for indifference, but is actually a test of emotional safety. 2. The emotional safety test. By the time this happens, she already feels something for you. Not certainty, not commitment, but interest. And that's exactly why this moment matters. Here's what it usually looks like. She shares something small but personal, not dramatic, not heavy, just enough to matter. Maybe it's a quiet frustration about work. Maybe it's a passing comment about a past disappointment. Maybe it's a subtle admission that reveals insecurity. And then she watches you, not obviously, but closely. This is what I call the emotional safety test. She's not asking you to solve anything. She's not asking for advice. She's checking one thing. Is it safe for me to be seen by this man? Here's where many men misunderstand the moment. They think attraction grows through fixing, impressing, or reframing. So they jump in with logic, solutions, motivation. And while their intention is good, the impact quietly shuts the door. Why? Because emotional safety isn't about being competent. It's about being present. The behavioral insight here is simple. When she shares something personal and slightly vulnerable, she's not measuring your intelligence. She's measuring your emotional steadiness. Does he rush? Does he minimize? Does he turn it into a lesson? Or does he stay calm and grounded and human? The men who pass this test don't say much, but what they say lands. They respond with things like, "That makes sense. I can see why that bothered you. Thanks for telling me that." Not dramatic, not performative, just real. Here's the mindset shift I want you to adopt. Your value in this moment is not what you add. It's what you don't disrupt. When you allow her emotion to exist without trying to manage it, you send a powerful signal. You don't have to protect yourself around me. And that's when attraction deepens quietly, without effort. Now let me gently challenge you. If you've ever felt a woman slowly close off after opening up to you, ask yourself this: did you try to help when she really needed to feel understood? Because this test doesn't announce itself. It happens in ordinary conversation, and the men who pass it rarely realize they did. They just stayed steady. And here's what happens next when you do that. She starts watching how you handle yourself, which brings us to the next section, the moment where men unintentionally talk themselves out of attraction without ever realizing it. 3. The overcorrection mistake, the calm wake-up call. This is the part most men don't expect to hear, and I'm saying it with care, because I've watched good men do this without realizing what they were signaling. Here's how it usually starts. You sense her interest. Maybe she's warmer, more engaged, a little more present than before, and instead of staying grounded, you adjust, you explain more, you justify your opinions, you soften your edges so you don't say the wrong thing. This is the overcorrection. It doesn't come from ego. It comes from wanting to keep the connection. But here's the hard truth. Attraction weakens when a man abandons his emotional center. The moment you start managing how you're perceived, you stop feeling stable, and stability is what drew her in. From her side, it looks like this. He was calm before. Now he's careful. He was present before. Now he's performing. And performance creates uncertainty. The behavioral insight here is subtle but powerful. Women don't lose interest because you disagree or express yourself. They lose interest when they sense you're monitoring yourself around them. That tells her something important. This man is more focused on being liked than being grounded. Now let me be clear. This isn't about being cold or dismissive. It's about not shrinking. So what's the practical correction? You return to neutrality. You don't over-explain your thoughts. You don't pre-defend your preferences. You don't rush to smooth every moment of tension. You let small pauses exist. You let silence breathe. This communicates confidence without words. Here's the mindset shift I want you to remember. Interest isn't maintained by adjustment. It's maintained by consistency. The version of you she was drawn to at the start, that's the version she needs to keep experiencing. If you change once interest appears, the signal becomes confusing. Now ask yourself honestly, have you ever felt someone leaning in and then noticed yourself trying to lock it in? That instinct is human. But the moment you try to secure attraction, you interrupt it. Because attraction isn't something you hold on to, it's something you allow. And this sets up the next signal, the one that shows up not in conversation, but in her behavior over time. In the next section, we'll talk about what it really means when she stops making things easy, and why that's not the rejection most men think it is. 4. The convenience shift. This one shows up quietly, no drama, no confrontation, just a change. At first, she was easy to connect with. She replied quickly, she made time, she adjusted her schedule just a little. Then something shifts. Replies take longer. Plans feel less certain. She's still polite, still warm, but no longer available on demand. And most men read this as loss of interest. But here's what I want you to understand. When a woman is interested but trying not to show it, she often pulls back on convenience, not connection. Why? Because availability feels risky. The more she makes it easy for you, the more exposed she feels. So she creates friction, not to push you away, but to see how you respond. This is the convenience shift. The behavioral insight here is key. She's not testing your effort. She's observing your emotional response. Do you get irritated? Do you pressure? Do you start keeping score? Or do you stay steady? Men who fail this moment assume they need to do more. They chase clarity. They push for reassurance. But that reaction does the opposite of what they intend. Here's the practical response that keeps attraction intact. You respect the shift without reacting to it. You don't demand access. You don't guilt her about availability. You don't pull away dramatically either. You simply stay consistent in your interest, without urgency. That balance signals maturity. It tells her, I enjoy you, but I'm not dependent on access to you. And that's powerful. Here's the mindset shift I want you to adopt. Convenience is not commitment. Comfort is not certainty. When she creates space, your role isn't to fill it. It's to hold your posture. Because when a woman sees that you don't panic when access changes, she relaxes, and relaxed attraction moves forward. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop trying to secure time, she suddenly made more of it? That's not coincidence. That's her responding to emotional steadiness. And that brings us to the final sign, the one most men miss, because it doesn't sound like an invitation, but absolutely is. In the next section, we'll talk about the invitation she gives without words and how to recognize it in real life. 5. The invitation without words. By the time you notice this one, attraction has already settled in. It doesn't show up as a confession. It doesn't sound like flirtation. It feels subtle. She starts placing herself near you, not obviously, not dramatically, but consistently. She sits closer than necessary. She lingers when conversations end. She finds small, natural reasons to be in your space. And then she pauses. She doesn't lead the moment forward. She doesn't label anything. She waits. This is the invitation most men miss because it doesn't ask for action. It creates opportunity. The behavioral insight here is important. When a woman likes you but doesn't want to reveal it, she won't initiate. She'll position. Positioning allows her to maintain emotional safety while still opening the door. Now here's where many men hesitate. They're waiting for verbal clarity. They want certainty before they act. But attraction doesn't move through certainty. It moves through decisive presence. This is the moment where grounded leadership matters. Not dominance, not pressure, just calm direction. So what does the correct response look like? It's simple. You acknowledge the moment and move it gently forward. You don't overthink it. You don't make it heavy. It can be as subtle as changing the environment. Let's grab a coffee and keep this conversation going. Naming the moment lightly. I like talking to you. Come with me for a minute. Clear, calm, unforced. That response does something powerful. It relieves her of the emotional labor. It confirms interest without making her expose herself first. And here's the mindset shift I want you to remember. When she creates opportunity, she's asking you to lead, not to convince. Leadership and attraction isn't loud. It's decisive and relaxed. If you hesitate here, she doesn't assume you're not interested. She assumes you're unsure, and uncertainty feels unsafe. Now ask yourself honestly, how many times have you waited for permission when the invitation was already there? Because once you learn to recognize positioning, attraction stops feeling confusing, and that awareness changes everything. This brings us to the final reflection, the one idea that ties every sign together and shows you how to move forward with confidence, without forcing anything. Here's the controversial truth most men don't want to hear, but need to. She didn't lose interest because you weren't attractive enough. She lost interest because the dynamic stopped feeling safe. Every sign we talked about today points to one thing. Not confidence tricks, not clever timing, emotional steadiness. When a woman likes you but tries not to show it, she's constantly balancing desire and self-protection. She pulls back, she tests, she slows things down, not to manipulate you, but to see who you really are when things aren't clear. And here's the empowering part. You don't need to chase clarity. You don't need to over-explain. You don't need to rush outcomes. Your power is in how you hold yourself when interest is present but unspoken. When you stay grounded, she feels safer leaning in. She stops needing to test. She starts choosing you willingly. That's real attraction. If any of these moments sounded familiar, I want you to comment below. Tell me what you've experienced. Tell me where you felt confused or pulled back. I read them, and I respond. Because growth doesn't come from pretending you've got it all figured out. It comes from reflection. I'll leave you with this. The moment you stop trying to secure attraction is the moment attraction starts to secure itself. Let her come to you.